go ahead and try this question. In 1996, Robert Williams became CEO of the recently reorganized Atlas Corporation and began a new campaign to turn around the business. We look at the choices, and in the three choices B, C, D with changes, we see that our options are going to be choices that put the commas in a different place. In the original, we have no commas, and B, C, and D, they put the commas, between the and recently, or at the end of the choice, and we need to determine when and if we need commas in this sentence. Now, title of the video is Your Breath is No Guide, because one of the rules, I remember I learned this when I was in high school or something, or just not really a rule, but perhaps a helpful guideline. Perhaps you were taught you put a comma in a sentence where you take a breath, or you put a comma in the sentence where you would pause when you're reading. And while there perhaps are some circumstances where that is true, that is not a good rule to follow in a rigorous fashion, especially for a test like the ACT or the SAT. So that rule is not very helpful. So don't follow your breath, don't follow pauses. What you have to do instead is know the rules, know how the sentences are put together, know the parts of speech of the sentence, when you need to put a comma, for what reason. In the description of this video, I will put a link to the ACT English Bootcamp video I made about commas, so you can learn more about this in a more rigorous fashion there. But for this video, we need to figure out what's going on with this part of the sentence and whether or not we need any commas at all. So what do we have? We have an article, the. Then we have recently reorganized Atlas Corporation. So Atlas Corporation is a noun. So that's a noun, Atlas Corporation. Now, reorganized is an adjective. It's describing the Atlas Corporation, right? It's the reorganized Atlas Corporation. And recently is an adverb because it's telling us that the corporation was recently reorganized, right? This is telling us when the corporation was reorganized. Therefore, it's an adverb because it's modifying this adjective. So we think about the parts of speech here and how this is structured. And first, looking at the article, the adverb, the adjective, and the noun, we ask, do we need any commas here? And from the rules, from experience, you would say no. There's no reason, for example, in B, to put a comma after the. No reason to separate, in this case, the article the from the word that it's introducing. Never going to do that. So for that reason, we can get rid of B. Similarly, we don't want to put a comma after recently or after reorganized because we don't want to separate an adverb and an adjective with a comma. You never do that. And you never separate an adjective from its noun when they're adjacent to each other with a comma. Again, these are just things you never do based on the rules. So that means we can get rid of C because C has a comma after the recently. So we're happy with no commas up to this point. Now we ask, well, what about here? Do we need a comma after corporation? And when you read this, it may seem like we might. In 1996, Robert Williams became CEO of the recently reorganized Atlas Corporation and began a new campaign to turn around the business. So there you can see I took a breath, I kind of paused. You might say, well, I need a comma there, right? Well, actually, no. We do not need a comma here, and why depends on understanding the structure of the sentence as a whole. What we have here is what's called a compound predicate. Sounds very fancy, but it's actually pretty simple once you see it. We have the subject of our main sentence here, which is Robert Williams, right? That's who or what the sentence is about. And notice he's doing two things in the sentence. He became CEO and began a new campaign. And because we've got these two verbs in the sentence, almost like the two, not almost, it is what the two things this person's doing. And because we don't repeat the subject, we don't say he or we don't say Robert Williams before began, we just go right into began. In this circumstance, we do not need a comma. A simple example of this would be something like John walked and swam. Notice again, two verbs connected with an end. Of course, you have to use a conjunction to connect two parts of a group like this. But notice I don't put a comma after walk. That would be weird. John walked, comma, and swam. No need for it. Same exact structure here. So we do not actually need a comma after corporation, even though it may sound or seem like we do. So D would be gone. So we're actually happy with the original. The original is totally okay. So as you can see, you have to be careful in questions like this with using your breath or pauses or anything rather arbitrary like that as a guide. The best way to know how to tackle questions with commas is to understand how a sentence is put together, the parts of the sentence, and then how the commas are needed to make that sentence fit together and flow properly. To learn more about Reason Prep's SAT, SAT subject test, and ACT video courses, go to reasonprep.com/enroll, and you can find the link in the description below the video.